Three college friends head to Mexico to celebrate graduation. After a wild night of partying, they wake up in jail and are told they'll be executed in the morning. None of them remember what happened. The first woman, a redhead, is brought to the electric chair. When asked for her final words, she declares, "I just graduated from Trinity Bible College, and I believe in the power of God to save the innocent." They throw the switch. Nothing happens. Awestruck, the guards fall to their knees, beg for forgiveness, and release her. The second woman, a brunette, steps up. "I just graduated from Harvard Law, and I believe in the power of justice to protect the innocent." They throw the switch. Again, nothing happens. The guards are dumbfounded, apologize profusely, and let her go. Finally, the blonde is strapped in. She grins and says, "Well, I just graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in electrical engineering, and I can tell you right now, this thing isn't going to work unless you plug it in." In 1855, two sisters, a blonde and a brunette, inherit their family ranch. After a few tough years, they find themselves on the brink of losing it. To save the ranch, they decide to buy a bull to breed their own livestock. The brunette takes their last $600 and heads west to buy a prized bull. Before leaving, she tells her sister, "If I buy the bull, I'll send you a telegram to hitch the trailer to the wagon and come get it." The brunette finds the bull, inspects it, and agrees to buy it for $599, leaving her with just $1. She heads to the nearest town to send her sister a telegram. At the telegraph office, she explains, "I need to send my sister a message telling her to come pick up the bull." The telegraph operator replies, "Sure, but it's 99 cents per word." Realizing she can afford only one word, the brunette pauses to think. Then she smiles and says, "Send her the word, comfortable." The telegraph operator raises an eyebrow. "How is she supposed to know what to do from just one word?" The brunette grins. "My sister's blonde, she'll read it out slow. Come for the bull." A group of guys were hanging out with a blonde and for some reason challenged her to climb a nearby pole. She agreed and climbed it, much to their amusement. Later that day, she told her mother about it. Her mom scolded her. "Don't you realize they only asked you to climb so they could see your underwear?" Embarrassed and upset for being so naive, the blonde vowed to outsmart them next time. The very next day, the guys made the same request. She climbed the pole again, but this time came home beaming with pride. "What are you so happy about?" her mother asked. "I totally showed them. This time, I didn't even wear underwear." Three women worked in the same office, all under the same strict boss. They noticed that every day the boss left early without fail. One day, they decided to test their luck. "Let's leave right after she does," the brunette suggested. "She never comes back or checks on us. How would she know?" That afternoon, they all followed through. The brunette went home, enjoyed some peaceful gardening, played with her son, and turned in early for a good night's sleep. The redhead hit the spa, squeezed in a workout, and ended the day with a romantic dinner date. The blonde, eager to surprise her husband, hurried home. But as she walked into the bedroom, she froze in shock. Through a crack in the door, she saw her husband tangled up with her boss. Quietly, she backed out and left the house, fuming. The next morning, during their coffee break, the brunette and redhead were excitedly planning to leave early again. They turned to the blonde. "Are you coming with us today?" "Not a chance," the blonde blurted out. "I almost got caught yesterday." The teacher asked her class to use the word fascinate in a sentence. Molly raised her hand and said, "My family went to my granddad's farm and we saw his pet sheep. It was fascinating." The teacher replied, "That's nice, Molly, but I asked for fascinate, not fascinating." Caroline then raised her hand. "My family went to New York City and I was fascinated," she said proudly. The teacher sighed. "Close, Caroline, but I need you to use the word fascinate." Finally, little Johnny raised his hand. The teacher hesitated. Johnny had a reputation, but decided to let him try. "All right, Johnny, go ahead," she said cautiously. Johnny grinned. "My Aunt Carolyn has a sweater with 10 buttons, but her boobs are so big she can only fascinate." The teacher sat down and cried. A man begins to suspect his wife is cheating, so one day he leaves work early to catch her in the act. When he bursts through the door, he finds his wife in a bathrobe, her hair disheveled. "Where is he?" he shouts. "Where's the guy you're cheating on me with?" "I have no idea what you're talking about," she says innocently. Not convinced, the man storms through the house, searching every room. Finally, he looks out the kitchen window and spots a man sitting in a Volkswagen parked on the street. "That's him!" the husband yells. Enraged, he grabs the refrigerator, heaves it out the window at the car below, suffers a massive heart attack, and dies. The man finds himself at the gates of heaven, face to face with St. Peter. "Why are you here?" St. Peter asks. "I came home early, found my wife cheating, saw the guy in his Volkswagen, threw a refrigerator at him, and died of a heart attack," the man explains. St. Peter shakes his head. "That was foolish. You don't belong here. Go to hell." He pulls a lever, the trap door opens, and the man vanishes. A short while later, another man arrives at the gates, looking confused. "What brings you here?" St. Peter asks. "I don't know," the man exclaims. "I was just sitting in my Volkswagen when, out of nowhere, a refrigerator crushed me." St. Peter scowls. "So you're the guy. I've heard enough. Go to hell." He pulls the lever and the second man drops through the trap door. Moments later, yet another man appears, even more bewildered than the others. "And why are you here?" St. Peter asks. "I have no idea," the man stammers. "I was just minding my own business, sitting in a refrigerator." 4 passengers were on a plane, but only 3 parachutes remained. The first passenger, Stephen Curry, stood up and declared, "I'm Stephen Curry, the best NBA player. My team and millions of fans need me. I can't afford to die." He grabbed a parachute and jumped out of the plane. The second passenger, Donald Trump, proclaimed, "I am the smartest president in American history, and my people can't do without me." He took another parachute and leapt from the plane. The third passenger, the Pope, turned to the last passenger, a 10-year-old boy, and said, "My son, I'm old and have lived a long life. You have your whole life ahead of you. Take the last parachute. I will sacrifice myself." The little boy smiled and replied, "That's okay, Your Holiness. There's a parachute left for you. The smartest president in American history just jumped out with my school bag." I was sitting at a red light yesterday, just minding my own business, patiently waiting for it to turn green even though the streets were completely empty. Out of nowhere, a car full of rowdy Justin Bieber fans pulled up beside me. They were shouting, singing "Baby, baby, baby, oh!" and waving posters of Bieber's new album. Their car was spray-painted with JB for Life in giant letters. Suddenly, they revved their engine and sped off, running the red light. At that exact moment, an 18-wheeler came barreling through the intersection and completely flattened their car. For a few stunned minutes, I just sat there in shock, thinking, man, that could have been me. So first thing this morning, I went out and got a job as a truck driver. The mafia needed a new enforcer to collect weekly protection money from local businesses. With the police cracking down, they decided to hire a deaf man for the job. Their reasoning? If he ever got caught, he wouldn't be able to spill the beans to the cops. On his first week, the deaf collector did a great job. Too great, in fact. He collected $40,000, but got greedy and decided to keep it for himself, hiding the cash in a secret spot. When the mafia boss realized the collections were late, he sent a couple of his enforcers to track down the deaf man. They grabbed him and brought him to an interpreter. The enforcers glared at the interpreter. "Ask him where the money is," one growled. The interpreter signed, "Where's the money?" The deaf collector shrugged and signed back, "I don't know what you're talking about." The interpreter translated, "He says he doesn't know what you're talking about." Frustrated, the enforcer pulled out a .38 and pressed it against the deaf man's head. "Now ask him where the money is," he said. The interpreter, now a little nervous, signed, "Where is the money?" Terrified, the deaf man quickly signed back, "The $40,000 is in a tree stump in Central Park, just east of the big fountain." The interpreter paused, looked at the enforcer, and said, "He still claims he doesn't know anything, and he says you don't have the guts to shoot him." A man walks into the welfare office, strides right up to the counter, and declares, "Listen, I can't stand living on welfare. I'd much rather have a job." The social worker smiles and says, "Well, your timing couldn't be better. We just got a job posting today. A wealthy older gentleman is looking for a chauffeur and bodyguard for his gorgeous nymphomaniac daughter. You'll be driving his Mercedes and he'll cover all your clothing expenses. Meals will be provided because of the long hours. You'll travel the world with her on luxury holidays and, well, part of the job involves satisfying her personal needs. You'll live in a 2-bedroom apartment above the garage and the starting salary is $200,000 a year. The man's jaw drops. You gotta be kidding me. The social worker leans in, smirks, and says, well, you started it. I took my 82-year-old dad to the mall the other day to buy some new shoes. Afterward, we decided to grab a bite at the food court. I noticed he was staring at a teenager sitting next to him. The teen had spiked hair in every color you could think of, green, red, orange, blue, and his clothes were just as wild. Bright blue pants, an electric green shirt, and a yellow belt. I think there was even some eye makeup involved. My dad kept staring, and the teenager noticed, glancing over each time. Finally, the teen couldn't take it anymore and sarcastically asked, "What's the matter, old man? Never done anything wild in your life?" Knowing my dad, I braced myself for his response, sure it would be classic. Without missing a beat, he replied, "I got drunk once and had sex with a peacock. I was just wondering if you were my son." An American businessman was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat, with just one fisherman aboard, docked. The boat was filled with several large yellowfin tuna. The American complimented the Mexican fisherman on the quality of his catch and asked how long it took to catch them. The fisherman replied, "Not long, just a little while." The American, intrigued, asked, "Why not stay out longer and catch more fish?" The Mexican answered, "I have enough to support my family's immediate needs." Curious, the American pressed on, "But what do you do with the rest of your time?" The Mexican smiled and said, "I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take siesta with my wife Maria, stroll into the village each evening, sip wine, and play guitar with my friends. I live a full and busy life, Senior." The American scoffed. "I'm an MBA from Wharton. I could help you. You should spend more time fishing. With the proceeds, you could buy a bigger boat. With the bigger boat, you could buy several boats. Eventually, you'd have a fleet, and instead of selling to a middleman, you could sell directly to the processors. Eventually, you'd open your own cannery. You'd control everything, the product, the processing, and distribution. You'd need to leave this small village and move to Mexico City, then LA, and finally NYC, where you'd run your expanding empire." The Mexican fisherman was puzzled. "But, Senior, how long would all of this take?" The American replied confidently, 15 or 20 years. The fisherman asked, "But what then?" The American grinned. "That's the best part. When the time is right, you'd announce an IPO, sell your stock to the public, and make millions." "Millions, Senior? Then what?" The American smiled. "Then you'd retire, move to a small coastal fishing village, sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take a siesta with your wife, stroll into the village in the evenings, sip wine, and play your guitar with your friends." The fisherman paused, a thoughtful smile spreading across his face. "But, Senior, isn't that exactly what I'm doing now?" A programmer didn't show up to work for several days. At first, his co-workers assumed he was on vacation, but after weeks passed without any word, they began to worry. They asked HR, but he was still on the payroll and had not officially taken any leave. They tried contacting him by phone, email, and even his Quora account. Nothing. One of them drove to his house, but his car was in the driveway, the door was locked, and after ringing the doorbell and knocking, there was still no response. Now seriously concerned, they called the police. The police tried all of the above with no luck. Finally, they broke down his door and went inside. Their worst fears were confirmed. The programmer was dead. They found his emaciated body in the shower. He had clearly starved to death. The water was still running, and in his hand was a shampoo bottle. The instructions on the bottle read, "Wet hair. Squeeze a small amount from the bottle over your hair. Rub your hair vigorously. Rinse hair. Repeat." A mother and her curious young son were flying Singapore Airlines from Singapore to New York. The son, having been gazing out the window for a while, turned to his mother and asked, "If dogs have baby dogs and cats have baby cats, why don't planes have baby planes?" The mother, unsure of how to answer, suggested he ask the pretty flight attendant. So the boy went up to the flight attendant and asked, If dogs have baby dogs and cats have baby cats, why don't planes have baby planes? The flight attendant raised an eyebrow and asked, "Did your mother tell you to ask me that?" The little boy nodded. The flight attendant smiled and said, "Well, tell your mother there are no baby planes because Singapore Airlines always pulls out on time. Now, let your mother explain that to you." It was a dark, quiet night, and a man hurriedly walked into his bedroom, mistaking the woman lying on the bed for his wife. Without a second thought, he climbed into bed and got closer than he should have. The room was pitch black, and the woman didn't say a word, just let out a soft hum. Rachel, is that you?" Feeling bold, the man whispered back, "Shh, it's just me, your husband." But suddenly the woman broke the silence, her voice hesitant yet clear. Excuse me, I'm not your wife." The man froze mid-motion, his confidence evaporating instantly. After an awkward pause, he muttered under his breath, "Well, there's no turning back now. Halfway in, halfway gone." An Iranian man walks into a bank in New York City and asks to speak with the loan officer. He explains that he's heading to Europe for 2 weeks on business and needs to borrow $5,000. The loan officer tells him that the bank will require collateral for the loan. The Iranian hands over the keys to a brand-new Rolls-Royce, worth $250,000. "The car is parked right outside the bank," he says, "and I have all the papers to prove it's mine." The loan officer agrees to the terms, accepting the Rolls-Royce as collateral. After the man leaves, the bank president, loan officer, and their colleagues all have a good laugh at the Iranian's expense for using such a valuable car to secure a small loan. One employee drives the Rolls into the bank's underground garage and parks it there. 2 weeks later, the Iranian returns, repays the $5,000 loan along with $15.41 in interest. The loan officer, still puzzled, says, "Sir, we checked your background and discovered that you're a multimillionaire. Why would you bother with a $5,000 loan?" The Iranian smiles and responds, "Where else in New York City can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15.41? A wealthy man decided to go on a safari in Africa, bringing along his loyal pet dachshund for company. One day, while chasing butterflies, the dog wandered off and soon found himself hopelessly lost. As the little dog roamed, he noticed a leopard rapidly approaching him, clearly intending to make him lunch. Panicking, the dachshund thought, "This is it. I'm in real trouble now." But then, he spotted some bones on the ground nearby and had an idea. He calmly sat down to chew on the bones, facing away from the approaching leopard. Just as the leopard was about to pounce, the dachshund shouted loudly, "Boy, that was a tasty leopard. I wonder if there are any more around here." The leopard froze in mid-stride. Terrified, he thought, "That dachshund must be dangerous," and quickly retreated back into the jungle, mumbling to himself, "Whew, that was close. That dog almost had me." Nearby, a monkey who had witnessed the entire exchange saw an opportunity and rushed off to inform the leopard. He hoped to trade the information for protection from the leopard. The monkey caught up to the leopard and quickly spilled the beans about the dog's trick. Furious and embarrassed, the leopard decided to take action. "Hop on my back, monkey, and let's see what happens to that cunning dog." The dachshund saw the leopard and the monkey coming toward him and realized trouble was brewing. But instead of running, the dog calmly sat down, his back turned, and when the pair got close enough, he said loudly, "Where's that darn monkey? I sent him off half an hour ago to bring me another leopard." A statue of a man and a statue of a woman had stood facing each other for centuries in a park. One day, a kind wizard, feeling sorry for the statues, decided to grant them life for 30 minutes. Immediately, the two of them dashed into the bushes, and strange noises could be heard for a while. After a while, they emerged, laughing and smiling. The wizard, amused by the scene, told them, "You still have another 15 minutes if you'd like to continue?" The statues looked at each other, and the male statue answered, "Fine, but this time you hold the pigeon, and I will shit on it." A monkey is sitting in a tree, enjoying a smoke when a lizard walks by. The lizard looks up and asks, "Hey, what are you doing?" The monkey replies, Just relaxing up here. Want to join me, my cold-blooded friend?" The lizard decides to join the monkey, and they enjoy some time together. After a while, the lizard says he's thirsty and heads down to the river. At the river, the lizard, feeling a bit too relaxed, leans too far over and falls in. A crocodile spots the lizard and swims over to help him out of the water. "Are you okay?" the crocodile asks. The lizard explains, "I was just hanging out with my monkey friend, and after a while I got so thirsty I went to get a drink. But I guess I got a little too carried away and fell in." Curious, the crocodile decides to check it out. He makes his way to the tree where the monkey is still sitting. Looking up, the crocodile calls, "Hey, monkey!" The monkey looks down and responds, "Whoa, how much water did you drink?" A young boy walks into a barber shop, and the barber whispers to his customer, "Watch this. I'm going to prove that this is the dumbest kid in the world." The barber places a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other, then calls the boy over and asks, "Which one do you want, son?" The boy picks the 2 quarters and walks away. The barber turns to his customer and says, "What did I tell you? That kid will never learn." Later, as the customer leaves, he sees the boy outside the ice cream shop. Curious, he approaches and asks, "Hey, son, I've got a question for you. Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy grins, licking his ice cream cone, and says, "Because the day I take the dollar, the game is over." A hooded robber stormed into a Fargo bank, demanding that the tellers fill a sack with cash. As he was about to leave, a brave customer seized the opportunity, yanked off the robber's hood, and exposed his face. Without hesitation, the robber shot the customer. He then scanned the bank and noticed a teller who was staring directly at him. He immediately shot the teller as well. The terrified customers, now all too afraid to make a sound, stared nervously at the floor. The robber, eyeing the silence, shouted, "Well, did anyone else see my face?" After a few moments of tense silence, an elderly Norwegian man named Ole, sitting quietly in the back, timidly raised his hand and said, "My wife got a pretty good look at you."